Hello, good evening, and welcome to the episode number 35 of Montague Island Books. Now, we've not been on for a couple of months much. I think Trevor Wood was the last person we did. And that was basically, we just not had many authors coming forward. So if you're an author, please do get in touch if you want to come on the show in 2022. But we've got a few Christmas specials running. We've got 3 lined up, and tonight is the first one. Now, like myself, the guests that we've got on tonight are creators of book groups, and they've also done just general, not specific, just general book groups, a bit like my own Bookends, but they also do lots of reviews and interviews and other things as well. So I'm very pleased to introduce you to Donna Morfett and Lynda Checkley. Good evening.
Good evening.
Great to have you both with us. So normally I would give an introduction for an author because it's easy. I can just go on to Amazon and find out, and I'm sure you both done the same thing. It's easy to get information. Just go on Amazon or Goodreads or whatever and get information. Whereas because although I know Donna's a published author now, but because you're both more involved in sort of the admin and running of a book group, it's a bit more difficult. So I'm going to let you do your own introductions. So Lynda, would you like to, for those that don't know you, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about yourself?
Okay, my name is Lynda. My career was in banking and then working for a charity. But when I retired, it wasn't long before lockdown started. And I started reading, and then I got more and more involved with reading books. And a few authors, actually, I'd won them in competitions, and they said to me, "Oh, would you do a review?" So I did. And 2 years later, I started, well, no, not that long, probably about 12 months later, I started reviewing properly, and I started getting involved with blog groups, and then I set up my own page. And I know when I set it up because my 1-year anniversary is coming up shortly.
Nice.
So I set my first group I set up on Instagram on the 11th of January last year.
Right. Wow.
So my first year anniversary of blogging is coming up shortly. The Facebook page is much newer. That's only been going about 9 months, and the Twitter page about the same.
Brilliant. That's great. So, and obviously they keep you busy nowadays, I presume.
Much busier than I ever thought they would. I never thought I'd be reading as many books as I do. I mean, I started off reading 1 or 2 books a week, and then it's turning into 1 or 2 books a day almost now.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know you can get through a book in a day, but good on you. So Donna's quite often, people who've seen the show before will have seen Donna in the audience. Donna's one of the very few that turn up as an audience and watch a lot of the author chats. So anyway, Donna, for those that don't know about you, do you want to tell them a little bit more?
So I work part-time for Greggs. I am sort of still a student. I've nearly finished my forensic science degree. At the start of lockdown, I decided to check out whether there were any groups on Facebook for readers. I figured there must be, and I've never thought to look before, but I've always read avidly, always, and I found some, and then I started talking to authors, and then around October, just over a year ago, one of my then author friends just was trying to release a new book but was worried about sales, so I said, why don't I interview you for my page then, which was British crime fiction, and he said, yeah, but there's another author that has a book out before me, so would you like to interview him? So I asked him, and he said yeah. And then a year later, I think just at the beginning of November, I've now done, I think, over 200. Some authors have been back, I think 4 times, and I've got interviews booked until next November. Then I started blogging, I started reviewing properly, I started beta reading, Last January, I set up my own group, which is Donna's interviews, reviews and giveaways. And then I set up my own proper Bookstagram, and my Twitter is just my Twitter, which I've had for years. But yeah, and I've got my own YouTube channel, and I set up a podcast. I think that's it. I think that's me.
I think that keeps you quite busy, and all the reading you do as well. So, like you're both heavily involved in reading, but also in all the groups and bits and pieces you do. What would you both say is the your most sort of favorite part of everything that you do? Is it the actual reading of the books? Is it the sort of beta reading and giving feedback to the authors? Is it running the group or whatever? What would you say, Lynda, for yourself?
That's really difficult. I think I just like the fact that I'm supporting the authors, especially the indie authors that don't find it quite so easy to get people to read and write about their books. Yeah,
that's a good point. And what about you, Donna?
People, easy. Everyone else, the book community is phenomenal. It's so supportive. I've made some amazing friends. To know that I'm helping people, but not just authors as well. Like, I met Lynda this year and it was amazing. It's one of my favourite memories of the whole year, and I never would have done that if I'd have never started blogging. So yeah, people, absolutely.
And it is amazing the people you meet, because you've got all sort of sectors of, people from all over the world that are, doing the same thing really. And, there's such a, everybody supports one another. So it is a great sort of community. So that's great to hear. But so obviously, what do you, I think you're both on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Is there a preferred, what do you feel works best? Which of the sort of social media fields do you think works best? And which, obviously they should follow you on them all, but which is the preferred one? Lynda, what would you say to that?
Oh, for me, by miles, it's Instagram. I think I've got about 3,150 followers on Instagram. Wow. Whereas Facebook, I can't even hit 500. It's just really difficult for me to pick people up on Facebook. Whereas I know Donna, it's the other way around. So I guess it just depends on which one you put in the work on.
Yeah, and which you enjoy, I suppose, as well. Yeah. And which you enjoy the most. So what would you agree with that, Donna? Do you think that Facebook is your favourite?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I don't mind Instagram, and I post stuff on there because I know that people use it, but I tend to flick more between Facebook and Twitter, because some authors are on Twitter that aren't on Facebook.
Yeah.
But Facebook 100% is my first. Everything I post on Facebook first.
Yeah, I agree. I've tried Instagram and I've tried Twitter, but I always end up coming back home, so to speak, to Facebook. It's just where I feel more comfortable, and I don't know, it just it flows better. The sort of interaction with people. Now, I know you're both involved with. We will get onto the island soon eventually, but I've just got questions that I've been dying to ask you. So there is a sort of a thing going around. I think even with the Booker Prize now, it's going on where when people get a book in for review, and this will probably work quite well for you both, because you both like general books. You're not stuck to a particular genre. But how do you feel about like naked books? So where you just get the text of the book, you don't get any cover, and you don't get any of the spiel. Have you ever read one of them? And if not, how do you think you feel about reading one of them and then giving the feedback? What about you, Lynda?
Well, a lot of the books I get, to be honest, because I read mainly on Kindle, they do come without covers, and you don't even get to see a picture of the cover on a lot of them. I don't think I've ever read a book without seeing some sort of spiel before, because even if an author sends you something cold, they usually tell you themselves what it's going to be about. So I've never had one that's been completely, I just haven't known what I'm going into.
Yeah.
there are genres I don't like, and I would struggle to read.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a difficult thing, isn't it? When if you don't get told anything, it's like, well, what if I don't like the genre, you know? Because I'd be the same. But what about you, Donna?
It's the same. I get ARC sent to my Kindle, so generally, you know, I get the title perhaps, and that's it, unless I flick back and read you know, anything. But that I'm fine with that, because generally I will read anything. So
But
if I got something that was completely, I had nothing, I think I'd still give it a go.
Yeah. I suppose with being in the groups as well, you get to know the authors, so you know what kind of thing they would write. I know there are some authors that have got really sort of changed genre and doing two sort of massively different genres at the same time. How they do that, I haven't a clue. But there's 2 or 3 people I can think of that are doing that, writing in 2 different genres that are totally different. But so I suppose when you get your ARCs, etc., or advanced review copies, for those that aren't aware, you've already got an idea in your head what kind of thing we're going to be writing. But I just thought it was interesting, because I'm sure it was a Booker Prize or one of the top literary prizes, where that is how they're getting them now. They're just like they're getting the book, but there's no bump, no author name, no title. You just into it, and then you've got to make your review on that. But
it kind of makes sense, though, doesn't it, for something like the Booker Prize?
Yeah,
it does kind of make sense.
Yeah,
because otherwise you can get preconceived notions about what you're going to be reading.
Yeah, that's right. I think it will be good, because, as you say, there's no preconceived ideas, and you just get into the book and read it, and it's all about the book. It's not to do with, you know, how much they've spent photoshopping on the image or getting experts to write a bum for whatever. It's all about, you know, the main book, which is good. Right. Anyway, we will now get down to the main bit of business. For those people that haven't watched the Montague Island books before, I'll just give a little bit of a sort of overview of what it's all about. So last year, I started doing these after reading one of Mike Craven's books that was based off the coast of Cumbria on a fictitious island called Montague Island, and that's where I got the name, and I got the okay from Mike to use it, and that's where it all sort of kicked off from. And what it is, normally authors, but I say on these special editions over Christmas, we've got people different from authors, and they go off to Montague, to the fictitious island of Montague Island, with 7 books of their choice. There's also some other things that they can take with them that they have to choose beforehand, and we just sort of discuss it. We discuss them, and we see how it goes from there. So we hope you've got your suitcases ready, and you're getting ready to go off to your island to spend, you know, the time until you're rescued off the coast of Cumbria. So, as I say, we start with 7 books. So, Lynda, do you want to tell us what your first book choice is, and why you've chosen that book?
Right. Well, I'm going to go back from when I was very young, so up to the current time. So my very first choice is the Malory Towers series of books by Enid Blyton.
Got to have some Enid Blyton there, haven't you?
Yeah, got to have Enid Blyton. It was what started my love of reading. My brother would ask for games and toys for Christmas every year, and I would ask for books, and it was always Enid Blyton books. Yeah. And Malory Towers was just some that really stuck with me. I don't like rereading books very often, but those were books as a child I used to reread. And actually, when I started thinking about this, I thought I'm going to have to buy them again and read them again.
I was just going to say, have you read them as an adult?
No, and I want to.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to read at least one of them and see what you think of it now, because that would be quite interesting. But a great choice, and as I say, I think everybody given a choice would have a you know, an Enid Blyton book of some form to take with them. So that's great. So Donna, what's your first choice going to be?
Similar theme, different book, the Magic Faraway Tree stories. Again, childhood memories. I've actually rebought it. I found it on Amazon, so I haven't read it again yet, but I will. Yeah, because it means so much, you know, and the memories from those stories, and when you're first starting to read, is just something special. So yeah.
And was that sort of a book or a series of books that you really got sort of, as a young child, got immersed in, so to speak?
Yeah, it's one of my earliest memories of reading. It's Magic Faraway tree stories. So yeah, absolutely.
So hopefully your first choice will give you both lots of sort of little sort of childhood memories, and you know, that's great to get those sort of things that are going to bring back sort of early memories for you. So we'll now move on to book number 2. So what's your second book going to be, Linda?
My second book is still what you're going to think is a children's book. It's Mary Poppins. However, when the book was written, and I didn't know this until fairly recently, it was actually written for adults. It wasn't written as a children's book.
Right.
And if you read the book, it's not like the Mary Poppins you see on the screen. Right. Mary Poppins in the book is very caustic. You still get the uncle that flies around in the air and the magical elements, but it was mocking the class system, and P.L. Travers meant it to be an adult book. She didn't ever mean it to be a children's book.
And is that sort of because has the book sort of stayed the same, or has it been sort of watered down to a children's?
No, as far as I'm aware, it's still the same. Wow. There's a series of books. There's 5 books, and a bit like Mallory Towers, it was another one of my rereaders. But when I was a little bit older, sort of in my early teens, I think I read Mary Poppins. Yeah. I mean, as a child, I lived opposite a library. So I literally lived in that library.
Right. So lots of books to devour.
Yeah.
But great. But yeah, interesting. When was I'm putting you on the spot here a bit, but when was Mary Poppins actually issued?
I do know that. It's 1984.
What year, sorry?
1984.
1984. Right.
The
wow.
34th, sorry.
34.
Goodness gracious. She wouldn't have been talking about Edward in England, would she?
I had to ask you to repeat it.
Yeah, 34.
1934. So it's it's done. It's served its innings well, hasn't it? Really, you know. And it's like 80 years nearly. You know, it's like or 90 years nearly, isn't it? So that's some going.
I certainly wasn't a child in 1984.
But a good choice, and again another book you'll have to read, you have to buy and read again. And what's your second book going to be, Donna?
I've brought it with me. It's Abattoir of Dreams by Mark Tilbury.
Oh, and why have you chosen that one?
That one is the book that I class as the book that started me on this whole crazy journey of being involved in the book community. It was special anyway. It was a good story. It had me hooked. I loved it. It's one of the few books that I've reread, but also because I shouted about it all over Facebook because I loved it. Mark sent me a signed copy, and now I'm one of his beta readers. And I've been in one of his books as well. So I consider that the book that started everything, and it's special. And I mean, it's a great story as well. But
so just tell us a little, for those of us that don't know about the book. Obviously, most of us will have heard the name of Mark Tilbury, but just tell us a little bit about the book.
Another weird Cumbrian crime writer.
Lots of them.
Yeah. Because of all the hills and sheep, with nothing else to do. So the Abattoir of Dreams is nothing to do with animal abattoirs. A guy is in hospital, he wakes up and he's accused of murdering his girlfriend, but he doesn't remember, he has no memories at all. And a policeman is adamant that he murdered his girlfriend. Then he starts having weird dreams where he goes back to his childhood. Some of it's quite horrific, it's child abuse, but it's done sensitively. And some of it's really powerful, emotional. And then, yeah, obviously, as it gets to the end, you find out who actually done it. And it was sweet, it was emotional, it made me angry. And yeah, so
isn't
it
it
was
good when you
brilliant.
get a book that brings out all your emotions? That's great.
Yes.
So that is one that you will definitely enjoy reading again by the sounds of it. So we're now on to book number 3. What's your third choice, Linda?
Right, getting a bit more adult now. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper
Oh.
Lee.
Wow, that's a great choice. So why that particular book?
Just because it stayed with me. It's one of the first books that I can remember staying with me for a long time after I read it. It's quite a thin book. I mean, I haven't seen it for ages, but I do remember it being a very thin book, and I read it quite quickly. But it stayed in my head for quite a long time afterwards.
Yeah, love it when that happens, when it just stays with you and you can be doing something completely different and it brings back the book to you. So that's great. And have you read that recently or would not?
No. I
So
need to fit in all these books from my past, don't I?
Yeah,
I'm coming more up to date in the next one. Those were my three
that's
from the
great
past.
though, to be able to take them to somewhere like an island and just bring all those memories back, not just from the books, but of your childhood and what have you. So that's an ideal time to read them, really, isn't it?
Well, I'm just hoping Donna's on the same island with me at the same time, because then I can borrow her books.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can swap.
You'll both go together. So we'll ship you off at the end of the show. And what's your third book, Donna?
Again, I have Shadow of the Wind. I won't even try. Carly Ruiz, I found, or something.
Where is the author from? Where's that name from? Is it?
It's set in Barcelona. I don't know if the author was Spanish. He passed away recently. I don't know if it's this year or last year, which is a shame. But it's set back in early 1945 in Barcelona. And it's one of those atmospheric books that left a lasting impact. And I remember just being, it stayed with me for a long time, and I read it years ago. So it had a massive impact on me, and I'd love to reread it when I got the time.
And what genre is that, Donna?
I don't really know, actually. I think it's crime, but I'm not sure. I didn't check. I don't know, to be honest.
But to you, it's a crime book, and
yeah,
it's sometimes difficult when a publisher gives a genre, and you think you'll read it and think, well, I don't think it was that. I thought it was, something different. And I've just noticed, Donna, your little friend at the side of you is.
Yes, I did. Well.
Hello. If you watch my interview with Jenny, she's there the whole time.
I just saw the ears flick up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So that's both of you with book number 3. So we're now on to number 4. So you were coming a bit more up to date now, are we, Linda?
We're much more up to date now. One I read this year.
Go on.
I wouldn't be surprised if Donna mentions this one as well, because I know she loved it. It's No Honor by Alice Khan.
Right. And what's that book about?
It's a bit outside my normal genre, because I'm a crime, police procedural, thrillery sort of person. It's about a 16-year-old girl in Pakistan who falls in love. Obviously, she's in one of the remote villages where they are treated as second-class citizens, all women, and she's expected to keep herself pure. She doesn't keep herself pure, and to escape she will be stoned to death. She will be killed.
Wow.
Her father, Jamil, he helps her get away, and she goes to Lahore, thinking she's going to have a better life, and her life there is just horrendous.
Oh dear.
I mean, she just has the most dreadful life. I don't want to say any more because it would ruin it for anybody who hasn't read it.
And without spoiling it, what is it that put that in your sort of 7 favourites?
Oh, it's just an amazing book. I don't often feel like crying in books, but that one made me want to cry. And again, like To Kill a Mockingbird, it stuck with me. probably they both in the way have got similar things going on. It's about how people are treated. I mean, in the first one, it's how the blacks were treated in America, and this is how women are treated in Pakistan. And possibly, I don't know, but I would guess that probably in some of the more remote places in Pakistan, women are still pretty much second-class citizens.
I imagine so, yeah. It's a bit shocking, really, isn't it? But so what did you think of that one, Donna?
It's just, it is hard to say without ruining it, but it's phenomenal. It really is. And I think it's one of those books that everyone should read. You know, everyone should know what goes on and, you know, and what some of these Pakistani girls are subjected to. It's horrendous. And it's it blew me away. It's not one of my 7, but it was a runner-up.
On the long list, yeah. In the long list rather than the short list, yeah. But,
I did try and guess Donna's in my head.
So that's sort of Linda's number 4. So what's your number 4, Donna?
I know this has been chosen before.
We've spoken about this before, haven't we?
Yep, but it's that good. Yeah. It just really is that good. Again, I think it's because it goes back in time, and I think the way that Stephen King writes 1950s, 1960s America transports you there. Yeah. You could be walking those streets and you could be sitting in the diners and listening to music. And the specialness of the story as well, you know, he's trying to change history and then realises the impact it has and the butterfly effect. And it blew me away. I mean, I could choose all 7 Stephen King books, but that one is my favourite, I think.
It is a great book. I must admit, I enjoyed reading it, and it's like, you know, it was the time I was born as well, so December 63. So it was that sort of caught my eye straight away. But just a great story. Do you want to sort of put in a nutshell what it's about for those that haven't read it? I know we sort of just discussed it a little bit then, but
so a guy finds, I think it's a magic cupboard or staircase where he can go back and try and prevent the assassination of JFK, basically. And then realises that if he does, then that's going to have consequences when he goes back to the current time, and he falls in love as well.
Yeah, it is great story. Have you read that one, Linda?
I have never read any Stephen King books.
Oh gosh.
We can't be friends.
Yeah, I think that one is one of my favourites, and The Stand as well. The Stand's like that even might take you a couple of days to read, Linda.
I went. Well, this is it. His books are very thick, aren't they?
Not all of them. They're not all that.
I went on to see if I could get any on Kindle, and very few of his books are on Kindle, and if they are, they're very expensive. So I did actually buy one in a charity shop without looking inside properly. Well, the writing is so tiny, there's no way I can read that, not at my age. I need a magnifying glass.
But yeah, he's, you know, although he comes across as being a horror, as writing horror, some of his stories are just, you know, amazing, like the one Donna just mentioned, and you know, there's a number of others, and there's Mr. Mercedes or Mercedes Man or something. There's
Mercedes,
The Stand, and a couple of others that are just like, you know, amazing. So you know, a lot of the local libraries have them, so well worth checking out. So now on to book number 5, and what's your next one, Linda?
Well, funnily enough, it's Mike Craven.
He gets everywhere, that guy.
My first bit of Mike Craven reading was the Poe and Tilly books, and I just absolutely love them. And having to choose one, I picked the Curator, but really it could have been any of them. Yeah.
The Curator was the first one that I read of his, and at the time I was waiting for accommodation, and I was actually living in Barrow-in-Furness, so it was very weird to be reading about a coast just off an island just off the coast of Barrow-in-Furness when I was actually you know, in the area. But so what was it about that book in particular, out of all the Tilly and Poe books, that got you?
Well, it's the same reason as you, really. It was the first one I read. So because it was the first one, it kind of sticks in your head a bit better, doesn't it? Just like you said then. And I just love the way they play off each other. I just think the relationship between the two of them is so brilliantly written.
It is. Just for, if there's anyone left in the world that hasn't heard of Mike Craven.
M.W. Craven, if they want to look him up.
Yeah. Do you want to just give a little overview of what the Curator's about?
Oh, very briefly, because again, I don't want to spoil it.
No spoilers.
It's a serial killer, and I think he killed 3 people and left body parts in strange places. It was the Poe and Tilly were trying to find out what the connection was between these people.
Yeah, that's it. And there's some great little sort of snippets of humour and sort of things where you think he's going down a completely different avenue. He goes down like little wormholes, but comes back out and manages to sew them all up at the end. And I think that was the thing that got me about it, is the humour and the fact that it might go what you think is off topic or off subject, but he has this amazing way of coming back and tying it up with everything else at the end. So it's like,
it kept me up reading really late in the night, and not many books do that these days.
Yeah. It's his short chapters, you know, like a chapter with like 4 or 5 lines, and then one more chapter, and then the next one like 15 pages, and he just keeps you going, because the chapters are very incised, but a lot of them are maybe like a couple of pages, and you just think, yeah, just do one more chapter, and he just like draws you in. But yeah, great choice, and I'm sure that will get read by both of you on the island. So what's your number 5, Donna?
I'm going to cheat a little bit and have a series, but it's a Harry Potter books.
Oh, I had a feeling they would pop up somewhere.
Yeah.
So you're cheating by taking the whole series.
If I had to choose one, I would choose the Goblet of Fire, which is an unusual one, but it's my favourite book, my favourite film. But I love them all.
Why is that your favourite?
I think because so much happens, and I think that's where it starts to turn from a kid's into an adult, where it starts to get dark. And that's where Voldemort comes back. So, you know, that really is where it changes. But they were incredible, you know, and what she done, the world she created is out of this world. The amount of thought she put into it, and, you know, I don't care about her, but she did create something special with those.
She did, yeah. It was, she created a world, didn't she? It was like a world building thing, as well as, you know, brilliant stories as well. So, well, that series will keep you going for quite a while. How many books is there in total?
7. I've read the first 3 or 4 about 7 or 8 times. So yeah, I'd fly through them. Yeah,
that's great. Wonderful. So the Harry Potter series, that's wonderful. So we're now on to book number 6. So what have you chosen next, Lynda?
Probably a bit of a strange choice, the next one. I've recently read a book called The Everyday Kindness Anthology that L.J. Ross edited.
All right, yeah.
And it's quite a big, thick book, and it was written for World Kindness Day, and the profits went to a homeless charity, and there's over 50 stories in there. But by quite a lot of them by fairly well-known authors, and it was just one of those books that I've read nearly all the stories. I've enjoyed nearly all the ones I read. There was only 1 or 2 that I struggled through a little bit. And it's just the sort of thing you can pick up and put down and pick up and put down. And it was done for a good cause. And I just thought it was a lovely book.
Yeah, it's great when you get a good collection of stories and even better when it's for charity as well, isn't it? You know, so I think Donna's got a bit more interest now. I think the dog's finally woke up proper now. Yeah, Lynda, so as I say, it's great when you get a good collection of stories and you like most of them. And as I said, the fact it's raising money for charity as well is even better, isn't it?
Did you read it, Donna?
It very, very nearly went on my list. It's a very special.
Yes,
it's special. I think because every story is feel good, and it shows you just what a little thing that you do, you know, what a massive impact it can have on someone. And I agree. It was very nearly on mine. It is incredible.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. I'll have to check that one out. I will definitely have to add that to the list or to the mountain. And what about you, Donna? What's your number 6?
Again, I could choose the whole series, but I will choose The Autumn Tree by Tony Forda.
Right.
I think everybody who knows me knows I'm a big fan of his books, and all of them, but The Autumn Tree is the most recent Bliss book, and I stayed up till 2 or 3 in the morning to finish it when he sent through the arc, and it was brilliant. And I wanted to reach through my phone and strangle him before I got to the end, and very nearly sent him lots of nasty swearing messages at 2 in the morning.
So what was it about that particular book? Were you saying that the way it made you sort of want to send him lots of nasty messages and things? What was it about the book that got you, without giving anything away?
I can't.
You can't.
No, but Tony's admitted himself that Bliss is coming to the end of his career, and it felt like The Autumn Tree was poignant for the victims because that's where they were placed, but it also felt like Bliss was accepting that he was in the autumn of his career, and it was quite and the way that Bliss is written is brilliant, and his relationship with Chana anyway, but it was quite
emotional. Yeah.
And again, at the end, Tony plays a little trick, and he very nearly got lots of nasty messages. And he just laughs because he's evil.
Great. Well, the suitcases that you've got should be getting quite heavy now because you've got 6 books in there. So we come to the final book. So what's your last one going to be, Lynda?
Well, funnily enough, it was very nearly The Autumn Tree.
Oh.
However, I was about 96% certain that Donna was going to pick that. So I decided not to. And what I went for is not necessarily my favorite book of the year, but it's a book that did something to help me move away from just reading crime and thrillers. And I read a book called The Rose Garden by Tracy Reese, and I read it about 6 months ago. And it's a historical novel set in London, and it's about 3 women and probably a little bit about how they are treated socially in those days, second-class citizen. But it's also about women's rights and racism and how poor people were in some part. You tended to be either pretty poor or quite rich. There was no sort of in between. And that book has made me realize how much I miss reading historical novels. And since I read that one, I've probably read another 10, maybe 15 historical books that I wouldn't have read had it not been for this book that I picked up on a book tour.
Yeah.
Because they were looking for more people. And I said, oh, go on, I'll read it. Little thinking it would completely change the genres I read. So, that's a bit special for me because it's opened my eyes to a lot of books I wouldn't have otherwise read.
Yeah, there are some great historical novels. One, I'm just trying to think of the author's name, and it won't come to me. Rutherford, but I can't think of his first name. New York, and that. So if you're into historical novels, read New York, because it's very what I call factional. There's a lot of fact to it, but it is fiction.
Yes,
it follows through the history of New York from the early settlers right through to 9/11 in one book, and it's amazing. It really is. So if you like your historical fiction, check that one out.
I'm also finding, though, that nearly every historical book is based on fact. There's a lot of them have got a lot of factual areas in them.
Yeah, definitely. But that's good because it gives you something to relate to, and it quite often tells stories that wouldn't maybe necessarily be heard by a lot of people. It brings things out into the open that you would, you maybe wouldn't have read about, but through the novel you're finding out about things. So that's great. It's a good one. And Donna, what is your last book?
Mine's also a bit of a curveball and also a different genre, and that's Auxiliary London 2039 by John Richter.
Right.
And it's classed as a cyberpunk, which if I saw that in a bookshop, I'd be like, no way, I'm not reading anything like that. It's just no. But actually it's sort of crime, sort of dystopian. It's the near future, someone's murdered, but you've got all the AI aspect to it. And again, it's a book that stuck with me and made me realise that actually I'd probably like different genres. And John's a great author anyway, and I've become good friends with him, but I'm surprised how much that book has stuck with me because it really isn't my genre.
I think it is great when you can genre hop, because you do tend to, particularly when you're reading like a lot of crime books, you do tend to get sort of not like blinkered vision, I suppose, in a way. But when you do read an historical fiction or a horror or whatever it might be, it just can turn you on to other genres. So I think it's sometimes good just to try and read. There's certain genres I wouldn't touch, but there's others that I think, wouldn't mind having a go at that. And it's surprising how it can pull you out. I used to be like that with novellas. I used to hate reading. I didn't used to hate reading. I didn't read them because I just thought I like big books that I can get into. But I've read a couple of novellas this year, and it just got me into them. So it's surprising how things can change. Well, thanks, ladies. We've got 14 great books, which I'm sure you'll be able to swap during your time on the island. And as you've got sort of similar interests, it'll probably be a case of you will read all of each other's books. So now we come down to the other things that you can take onto the island, which may be a bit more difficult for us to guess. If there's people watching this from members who are members in your groups, you probably have an idea of what books you would pick. But with these next items, they will find out a little bit more about you, shall we say. So the first thing we have, we believe that on the island, on this fictional island, that you will get about an hour a day of electricity. So we allow you to take one CD with you. Now, a CD can be music, it can be an audio recording, or it might be your own playlist of songs that you put on a CD or whatever it might be. So, Lynda, what CD would you take with you?
Well, I didn't know I could make up my own playlist, but it would have been the same genre as what I'm going to take anyway. I'm a massive fan of musicals.
Right.
I've been to London, I've been to Broadway. If I go abroad, I've been to Toronto, I've been to shows there. I go up to London regularly. Well, I used to. So I'm going to take a soundtrack with me. And I was torn between two, but I've left one of them just in case somebody else in the room chooses it. And I'm going for the soundtrack to Les Miserables. Right,
wonderful. And what is it particular? Is there any in particular about that one, or is it just the fact that it's musicals and you can have a sing along?
Yeah, I know. I probably know all the words to it. I've seen the show 4 or 5 times. I still cry at the end every time, even though I know what's going to happen. So yeah, that's why I chose that one.
Yeah, so you got a lot of connections for you, so that's great. Yeah. And come on then, Donna, what's yours going to be?
Weirdly, I found this harder than the books because I love music. Yeah. But my first thought and my choice is the Green Day album, American Idiot.
Right. And what is it about that album that you sort of really like?
There's not a bad song on it. They sort of bleed into each other as well. I've seen the live show, and it's one of the best things I've ever seen. I don't know, I just really like every single song. You can sing along to them. There's some slow ones, there's some fast ones. And yeah, it's just my favourite album, I think.
It'll get you going, get you up in the morning when you start playing that. Yeah, when you're huddled in your little corner of the Cumbrian island. Yeah, you can get warm by working out to the music. So that's great. So good choices on your CDs, and it sounds like you're both going to enjoy each other's. So next, as I say, as part of this 1 hour of electricity every day, you also get a DVD to take. Now, a DVD can be a number of things. It could be a film, it could be a TV series, it could be concert footage, whatever. Lynda, what's your DVD going to be?
Oh, goodness, I never even thought about taking a TV series, and I could be very tempted by a few, but I'm sticking with my music, and I'm going to take the 60s film Sweet Charity. Sweet Charity,
60s. So it doesn't ring a bell, that one, to me. Tell us a little bit about it.
It's about Shirley MacLaine's the lead, and it's about a girl who goes to work in I can't remember what they call them, where they used to have dance halls in America where the girls would be sat in one area and the men would pay for them to dance with them. And she was one of these girls that men used to pay to dance with. And obviously some of the girls also were paid for extras.
Other services, yeah.
But Charity, she was sweet. Her name was Charity. She was a sweet girl who always believed that she was going to meet her man and she would have a happy life. And things don't always turn out that way, do they? But it was the soundtrack and the dancing. It was done by Bob Fosse, and I absolutely love Bob Fosse. He did Chicago and Cabaret.
Yeah. So that's what got you into it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm taking Sweet Charity with me.
Brilliant, good choice. And what about you? What about yourself, Donna? What's your DVD going to be?
I'm taking Game of Thrones, the whole series, because I feel like the first time of watching, there would be so much stuff that I would have missed, so many clues, so many just little things. Plus, it's brilliant anyway. So, yeah, I'd love to watch it.
How many series of Game of Thrones were there?
I want to say 8. I don't know if that's right, but...
So that's going to be... I'm trying to think how many hours of DVD watching that's going to be when you only get an hour a day. I think you might get nudged out early.
Well, that's okay, because I've never actually seen it, so it'll be something for me to watch.
And what is it about Game of Thrones that sort of sparks your interest more than sort of any other choices you might have made?
Mostly because I want to see if there's stuff that I missed, but I think because there's so much going on, it's families, it's friendships, it's loyalty, and and there's dragons, which is pretty cool.
Donna, has anybody told you there's no such thing as dragons?
There are. They're all Game of Thrones.
See the dog look up then when you said that. The dog went.
See, look, even Trixie agrees.
Trixie was like, what are we talking about?
There's 3 dragons and they're awesome.
I think we'll leave that one there. So next, now this is a fictitious island, so a lot of strange things can happen, such as food that simply reoccurs and makes itself again. So you get to take a food with you. If it could be a favorite food or something that you that may bring back memories from childhood or whatever. And it can be an ingredient, or it can be something that's sort of made, like a pie or a roast or whatever. So which food are you going to take with you, Lynda?
Well, I'm a big fan of fish and seafood, but I'm going to assume that I'm going to be able to catch those because I'm on an island.
Yeah, but it's off the coast of Cumbria and it might be radioactive fish.
Well, I don't want to be on an island in Cumbria. My island's going to be in the sun somewhere. I'm taking my cat with me. I'm taking Sassy. She's my luxury item.
Your cat as a food?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I tell you. I tell you what, when you gave us the list, you did luxury item next. Food item. Do you know what? I was talking about fish.
I was getting a bit worried then when you said the cat for a food. I was like...
Andrew was getting quite worried as well.
We'll come back to the cat later. So
right, okay. Well, that's given away my luxury item, hasn't it? But yeah, I'm going to take an endless supply of Walker's salt and vinegar crisps.
Wow. So they're your favourite snack to go to, are they?
Yeah, particularly with a piece of bread and butter, yeah.
So a crisp butty, as we call it up north.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, that's good, and that'll keep you going. It'll keep you, I don't think you're going to find many animals that have you to catch off a little island off the coast of Cumbria. But if you've got a good supply of crisps, then that should keep you.
Yeah, I can catch and eat fish, but I'm not catching and eating animals, I'm afraid.
And what about you, Donna? What would your sort of food to take with you?
It would be my mum's chili con carne.
Mum's food, eh?
Yep, so, only hers.
And does she know that you think chili con carne is so respected?
Yes, and I've said that I'd choose it over a roast any day. So yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. That's great. So, well, Linda, I was going to ask you what your luxury item is.
Yeah. Well, you see, my luxury item would have been my preloaded Kindle, but I know that's not going to be allowed. So
there is actually a Kindle on the island, but it's only preloaded with my 7 books. Craven's Craven books.
That's what I assumed. So I'm taking the cat with me. I know I won't be eating her. I'll just be cuddling her.
There's going to be headlines tomorrow. Linda eats cat on island.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen? My followers are going to dwindle.
Even I'm looking at you like, I don't know.
You're not going to let me near a dog, are you?
So you're going to take your cat. So tell us more about your cat. How long have you had the cat?
Not for a year. Day after tomorrow, we will have had her exactly a year.
Oh,
so she was 7 months old, rescue, when we got her. She's the most annoying cat I've ever had. She wakes us up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, every single night since we've had her. She's ruined my brand new leather sofa. She's taken the hair off all the way up the stairs. She lays on her back on the stair, and she's taken all the carpet out carpet threads out. But I still love her.
Trixie's listening very careful to this, I can see. Did somebody say cat?
Yeah, we can't have a Christmas tree either because we put it up last year. 2 days later, we got her. 2 days after that, we had to take it down.
She's trying to climb it.
Climb it, banging the baubles. Nightmare.
Oh, well, Christmas should be fun for you this year. And Donna, what is your luxury item going to be?
It's my teddy bear.
Your teddy bear. So is this a teddy bear that you've had since you were very young, or? Yeah.
Since I was less than a year, I think. Again, my mum used to do, I think, Avon, and she got it. It's called a plush puppy. And she got it for me when I was a baby. And there's pictures of me with it. And it was dropped in a canal, and my auntie likes to tease me because I screamed. And yeah, I've had it for however many years I've been alive, and it's come with me.
Great, wonderful. And what's the teddy bear's name?
Diana, because of Michael Jackson's Day. Diana was out at the time that I sort of thought of naming it. So yeah, weirdly, Diana.
Great story, great story. So that's wonderful. So you've got all your items now. I've been really naughty and added another item. And you're both going to scream at me over this one, because if you had an option, because you've obviously both spoken to and you're friendly with a lot of different authors, but if you had an option to take one author with you, who would you take to the island?
Living order? Can they be? Do they have to be a living author?
No. So I will let you just sort of ponder that, because I say we don't normally ask this, but I thought, well, in these specials we'll just add an extra one in just to make you have a think. So Lynda, have you got a name, and why would you take that person with you?
Agatha Christie. She was actually a really interesting woman. If you read her biographies, it's not just, she didn't just write books. You know, her husband was a Egyptologist, and she used to go all over not just Egypt. I think they went to Iran as well, maybe, or somewhere like that. I can't even think of the right word for it. What do you call it? What he does? Archaeologist, that's the word. And obviously there's the story of her up in Harrogate doing her disappearing act, and I just think she was probably a really interesting woman. Yeah. Now, whether or not Donna and I would get on with her is another matter, because I think she was actually also a very difficult woman. I don't think she was the most friendly woman in the world, and you know, she might not be quite so much fun to be with, and maybe I ought to go for somebody that I know will be good fun, but
she'd have lots of stories to tell, wouldn't she?
She would have lots of stories to tell, exactly right.
Yeah, so great choice. So Donna, who are you? Who would be your choice?
It would be Kathy Wright.
Right, and why is that?
She is the reason that I decided crazily that I was going to do a forensic science degree. Because of reading her books and knowing that she actually done what she wrote about in real life. She's a forensic anthropologist, paleontologist, can't remember, anthropologist, I think. So she deals with bones, and she works in America and in Canada. She helps recover bones and body parts from 9/11, and she's been all over the world. So I imagine, again, she's got some stories. And
Sorry to interrupt you, Donna, but I didn't actually hear who you said.
Kathy Wright.
Oh, Kathy Wright, yeah.
Yeah. And I'd like to say thanks for putting me through 3 years of hell and having to study chemistry as well. And also she writes pretty cool books. So yeah, that would be my choice.
Yeah, so you can have lots of discussions about the books and about your studying as well. So that'd be a good choice. Well, you both made some excellent choices, some that I kind of expected and some that I didn't. Especially the eating cat on the island, that's going to never be forgotten. But there we go. But as I say, it's been lovely to have you both on and to hear all the different things you've chosen. Now, just before we finish, would you both like to tell everyone who's maybe not heard of your sort of, you know, pages and groups and etc. on social media, where they can find them and what they involve? So do you want to go first, Lynda?
Right, I'm actually about to open an email so I can, no, I actually can't on here. The Facebook and the Twitter ones are called Lynda's Book Reviews and News. Yeah. And the one on Instagram is Lynda's _book reviews. So they do have slightly different names, which was very silly, but at the time I didn't really think it was going to take off in quite the way it has.
Yeah, and just give people an idea of what they can find on your sort of different pages on social media.
Well, obviously Twitter and Instagram, nobody else can post on your page. So those are basically where I do most of the blogging. So all the books I read, anything book related. So if I got a book handbag that went on there. Whereas the Facebook page is a bit different in that I've done a group rather than a page, which allows other people to post on there. So as well as my reviews and things I put on there, there's things other people put on there as well.
Yeah.
It tends to be book reviews, if I'm honest. Most people tend to put book reviews on, or there's authors plugging their own books.
Yeah. Brilliant. Wonderful. And what about you, Donna?
Talk about having everything different. So Facebook is Donna's Interviews, Reviews and Giveaways. Instagram is Donna's Book Reviews and Interviews. Twitter is little LIL Miss Morfett. The podcast is Miss Morfett Chats to Authors. And then YouTube, I think if you just search my name, then you can find my videos.
So is the podcast the audio from the YouTube, or is that
from the Zoom meeting? So yeah,
so that's great. So that'll keep you busy. I imagine it'll keep both of you busy, especially with once we get Christmas out of the way and we're getting into New Year and everybody's thinking about getting new books out and ready for the sort of year ahead.
Oh, we're already booked. I know that I've got blog tours into February and obviously interviews until November. Yeah. So next year is already looking crazy. Yeah. So sort of Christmas.
I'm booked up to beginning of March as well for blog tours and things.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Well, as I say, thank you both so much for coming along. As I say, I thought I would just try something different. We have got a couple of other special Christmas shows coming up. On the 14th of December at 1:30 p.m, where instead of looking at sort of creators of book groups, we're going to look at book publishers. And we've got the two directors from Hobeck Books coming along for that one to hear their choices and their time on the island, and to look at to find out a bit more about the sort of the publisher's view on it. And then the following week, date and time to be confirmed, we've got two admins from the UK Crime Book Club coming along. So as I say, something a bit different, rather than sort of being all about the authors. These sort of free shows are something a little bit different. Now I must apologise, once we finish this evening it will just cut off because my internet seems to have a thing about saving recordings. So when I say goodbye, it will be goodbye. Well, thank you both very much for coming this evening. I've really enjoyed it, and I hopefully will bring a few more people into your Instagrams and Facebook groups, etc. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you too, Joe.
Nice to talk to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Donna.
Bye, Linda.